a show about universal topics with a Latina point of view. Stay smart. Today on Latina Voices Smart Talk, the societal dilemma, homelessness. Every year, about 2 million children face a period of homelessness. 13% of Americans live in poverty, including 1 in 5 children, the most in the industrialized world. How does this even exist in one of the richest countries on earth? Today we examine this issue with Elena Davis, I Am Water's Foundation, Tao Costas of Search, and Diana Arani of Healthcare for the Homeless. Hello, everyone. I'm Minerva Perez, the executive producer of Latina Voices Smart Talk, a show about universal topics with a Latina point of view. Joining me, my co-host, as usual, Houston PBS senior producer and anchor, Patricia Gras, and Texas super lawyer, Sofia Adrogué. Ladies, let's do a little smart talk, shall we?
Absolutely.
Well, today we're talking about homelessness, and as you know, homelessness is very much tied to mental illness and addiction. I read a book called Addict at 10 by Derek Steele. It's a story about a young man who started doing drugs at age 10 because he was totally neglected by his parents, and his whole life story and how he changed his life. He turned his life around at age 20 and became a multimillionaire, and now is helping other kids stay away from drugs, or kids who already are addicted stay away from drugs. But it's a very good read, especially to understand issues of addiction. As you know, most of us do have somebody who we know who is addicted, and unfortunately this is tied somewhat to homelessness, not totally, but we're, as a society, not dealing with our addiction problems in America, and we're not dealing with mental illness in America. And I think that's something that we'll learn a lot more about today.
You find so many mentally ill people on the streets.
Yes.
Of every major city in this country. And it's just a sad scenario, a very sad scenario for this country.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I've been reading the book Dream by the
great book. I read it too.
great book
Yes.
by Elena Davis of the I Am Water's Foundation. And it's such a simple story about how one person can really change a whole community.
Well, and as she actually says, the simplest things can affect and result in profound change.
And the fact that she has known hard luck and has known this type of situation herself personally. I mean, it's just an amazing story.
Well, and it poses the question, what happens when you can provide 80,000 bottles of water on a very hot summer? And of course, the end result is love, joy, peace, faith, and hope, ostensibly just symbolized in the water. But there's a lot more to that as they carry the water and go forward.
And we will hear about her story and I Am Water's Foundation on this very show. We have Elena Davis with us just ahead. We return with a look at homelessness and how plain water is playing a part in easing the problem. The homeless situation lives right next door in every major city in the U.S. And while the number of homeless people in America varies from day to day, estimates from the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty puts it at about 3.5 million people.
In Texas, it ostensibly stands about 250,000 people. Although by its very nature, homelessness is almost impossible to measure with accuracy, we know it is an urgent crisis. How do we move from isolation to integration as truly the homeless are all of us?
Which brings us to our first guest today, Elena Davis, founder of I Am Water's Foundation. By simply handing out a water bottle to a homeless woman who was thirsty, Elena created the Houston-based nonprofit that at last check has distributed more than 80,000 bottles of water to the needy. Welcome to Latina Voices.
Thank you.
Great to have you.
Thank you very much.
Obviously, you had your own life experience that led to this foundation. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you can relate to the homeless in a different way.
Okay, well, while I wasn't raised homeless, I'm one of 4 children, and we were raised in abject poverty for most of our early childhood. We were, $3,000 a year in food stamps, and, really living on the fringes of society, kind of understanding that sense of not belonging. We led a very transient life. By the time I was in the 8th grade, I'd already been to 12 schools, and the 8th grade was my last full year of school. And so there's just a lot of experiences in my own childhood that allows me to kind of understand the need for the word on the bottle, which is kind of the spiritual need and being, lifted up and filled up. And Yeah.
Now, you started this foundation from one bottle of water, I mean, essentially.
Yes.
What was it about that homeless woman that attracted you to her?
I pulled up to a stoplight at the 610 in Westheimer, right at the Derrick Hotel, and this woman was making her way from car to car, and she had gone to the truck in front of me and asked for, I thought probably for money, and he had a juice bottle. He drank half of the juice bottle, gave it to her, and I felt bad for her that she had to drink what he had already drank out of the bottle, but she was so happy to have it. When she came to me, I got money ready for her, and she asked for water. I had just happened to fill a container of water, a 32-ounce thing of water, and I hadn't taken a sip out of it. I gave it to her, and just the look on her face was so grateful. It was very hot outside. The light turned green. I pulled away from the intersection, and I can't describe it other than to say that there was like a fire lit inside of me from the moment that I pulled away from the intersection, and it's resulted in I Am Water's foundation.
I think what's amazing about not only what you're doing, but I think you serve as a paradigm spokesmodel for this, because as I said in my introduction, the homelessness can be any of us. It's just given a turn in fortune, a problem with your insurance or lack therein, escalating hospital bills, losing of a job, the number of people that have lost their jobs in the Great Recession. Any of us can be in that scenario. And what's amazing in that, you were able to have the luxury and opportunity, working hard and luck, to leave that transient style, have a very successful career.
Yes.
And perhaps you can touch on that, and then what made you go back, and what's been the reception now that you go and talk to others? What's the response when they hear your story?
So I worked as a model, and I left the country for a year. I came back and I worked in New York for 5 years with Eileen Ford and did very well. I was very, very fortunate. I was able to lift my family out of the poverty that we were, born into, and they are all now married and homeowners, and we all have very structured, stable lives. And I ended up becoming married and having children, and my life as an adult took a completely different turn from, my early childhood. And, I was kind of, involved in a very privileged lifestyle, a very kind of unique life as a married woman and as an adult. And I had a very close relationship with my father-in-law, and he passed away, and it was after his passing that was a very difficult thing for me. I think he was really like the one person in my life that was very stable and, a father to me, and very, mentoring in a way. So it was after his passing that I kind of, got to this place in my life where it's like, why am I here? What am I doing? What does God want from me? I felt like, I had my children and a wonderful house and family and all of this, but it felt distinctly like something was missing from my life, or I wasn't doing something that I was supposed to be doing. And it was shortly thereafter that this woman in the intersection, that I had met with her, and then I knew immediately that it kind of led me to...
What do you think about the water situation? Because you could be giving them clothes, or you could be giving them food or something else. There's something about water that is spiritual in your story.
Yes.
If you could share that, and what kind of response are you getting from the homeless when they get this bottle of water?
Well, there's two things. So the water is, after my father-in-law passed away, I was not really able to kind of resume doing a lot of the things that I was doing, going to different parties and kind of doing more social things. I kind of drew back and went inside, and a part of that was really going back. Nobody knew where I was from. Nobody knew that I was raised on welfare. Nobody knew that I had dropped out in the 8th grade. Nobody knew. It was not even my children. My husband knew, but I didn't tell anybody about it because I had a lot of shame and embarrassment about it. One of the things that kind of helped me through the healing process of losing my father-in-law was to go back into the types of neighborhoods that I was from. I started going back into ghettos and project houses and photographing kids and 13-year-old girls with their babies, and going to homeless shelters and really immersing myself back into the environment that I was really from. And immediately I felt a sense of kind of, it was like I went home. I just felt very connected and happy. And so it was through the course of a year of photographing and going to homeless shelters and traveling to Sacramento and photographing in New Orleans that I knew that the homeless don't have access to clean, safe drinking water. Most people don't even think about it. I think when you think about water, you think mostly about third world countries because this is the flow of information that we have. So it was really to give them something basic that they needed that they just don't have access to. To access water, oftentimes you have to trespass because the spigots are on private property. You can't get the key to a gas station bathroom if you're homeless.
And if you think about it, every city has thrived because water is nearby.
Yes.
I mean, that's what water means to me. It's life.
It is life.
It makes things thrive.
Yes.
Is this organization thriving as a result of this one simple deed that you performed?
And it's the physical hydration, but it's also the spiritual hydration. You know, when you're homeless and you're living under a bridge or in an encampment or going in and out of shelters, it erodes your sense of self-worth. It erodes your sense of value, and the homeless are invisible for the most part in society. The word is to fill them up, to remind them that there's something that lies beyond their immediate environment, beyond what they're sitting in, beyond how they feel about themselves, and to remind them of that. And what we know from the surveys that we've conducted, UCLA has helped us form this survey that we've been asking and collecting data all through the summer as we've delivered. We want to know from the homeless, how does the word make you feel, and what is the value of the word? And the short story is, the word makes the homeless feel that they belong. It makes them feel that God or somebody knows that they are there, that they exist, that they're no longer invisible.
What kind of result have you seen or feedback have you gotten from the homeless about what you do?
The things that we've heard are just that, when somebody is going from, let's say, a shelter or a service provider, so Star of Hope or Search, for instance, and they're leaving that environment, it's very scary for them. So the bottle with the word, they're able to have the water on the bus while they're going to look for housing or going to look for work, for the water, and then the word makes them feel comforted. It's a touchstone for them to look at and to know it's going to be okay, to have hope, to feel peaceful, that all is all right. And it really acts as, I don't know if you have kids, but if you drop your kids off at daycare, you want to take their teddy bear and their blanket with them because it's object constancy. Right. It reminds them of a safe place. So the water really does that for the homeless. It acts as a tether. So when they're outside of that shelter environment, that they feel still a feeling of connection and a feeling of safety.
Any funny anecdotes? Because I read your book and you had some great stories. One that really moved you.
There has been a lot. I think there was one in particular. There was a fellow that was at Turning Point, and we hadn't delivered to Turning Point. We had been delivering in the downtown area, but we hadn't been out to, they're over off of I-10. And he saw our T-shirt with the word hope on the back, and he said, I know you. And I thought, how would he know us? Because we haven't delivered out here, and I didn't think he could have the water. And he ran back to his room and came back and was waving the bottle of water with hope. And he said, look, I know you. And I said, where did you get that bottle of water?
Wow.
He said, well, I went down to the medical center to get to see my doctor. I've been sick. And I left there and I went to get the bus to come back to Turning Point. And I wasn't feeling very good. I went to go lean up against a shady tree. And I looked up, and the branch was hanging this bottle that said hope. And he said, I really needed that water, and I thought that was amazing. So it was right there for him.
And you're not just in Houston; you're also spreading out to other parts of the country.
We are expanding. We're doubling our delivery here, summer 2011. We're expanding to Austin and Fort Worth, and then from there.
Good luck to you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, and we'll be right back. Don't go away.